1.
Good afternoon and happy Friday. This is Audrey Russo, President and CEO of the Pittsburgh Technology Council. And I am here today, as always, with Jonathan Kirsting. He is all things media and Vice President of Visibility at the Tech Council. So I want to just give a couple of shout outs and then just talk about the layup for today. And I'm pretty excited. So I have an old friend and a great guy that's going to have a candid conversation with us in a moment. So first of all, thanks to Huntington Bank and AT&T for all that they have done to help support us over this last 45 working days. Hard to believe. But they have been active in the community. Huntington Bank is the largest SBA lender. So as many of you know, they've been very, very busy over these last many weeks. And AT&T has been a tremendous provider of support, both in food as well as in technology, making sure that people have access that they need. So I thank you to them and thank you for their leadership. So I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up. On Tuesday of next week, when we come back, we have the winners, the top 2 from our civic hackathon that we had last weekend with Russ Built. And we were pretty blown away by the results within 48 hours. And they are going to join us and tell us about their story because we want them to move ahead and build their company. Wednesday, we go live with Harry Mosley, Global CIO of Zoom. And we are pretty happy about learning more, not just about their information strategy, but also about their opening in the Pittsburgh in the Pittsburgh area. So we're excited about that on hiring lots of people. Thursday, we have State Representative Dan Frankel, who is discussing legislation that he has championed to work on contact tracing, which is very relevant to each and every one of us. And then Friday, since it's a short week, we have Chairman and CEO of Essential, which was recently the mothership that acquired People's Gas here in Western Pennsylvania. In the week after that, I do believe that we have Travis Williams, who's joining us, who's president of the Pittsburgh Pirates. So as you can see, we are continuing to do this every day and make sure that we are being informative and relevant for each and every one of you. So we've muted your microphones. We've done that so that we don't hear any noise from where you're sitting. We also have interactivity on this call. So we are excited that we can have a chat with Mike Moe. And lastly, this is not an opportunity for you to advertise. So just make sure that you comply with that. So I'm going to jump right in, and I'm thrilled to bring today's guest, Mike Moe. And the reason that I'm wearing my hat, Mike is going to tell you why he's wearing his hat and why Jonathan is wearing his hat. And even Brian, who's the wizard behind all of this, is wearing his hat. I cannot find my hat at the moment, but I want to pass the baton.
You got to find your hat, Audrey. Come on, man.
Welcome, Mike, who has, it is now 9 a.m. wherever you are on the West Coast. So thank you for joining us. So Mike, tell us why we're all wearing these hats.
Well, and how I got to meet Audrey and all the great people at the Pittsburgh Technology Council was from our good friend, Bill Campbell, who passed away 4 years ago now. It's hard to imagine that it's 4 years ago.
Wow.
But Bill, as a very proud Pittsburgh, Homestead, PA native, we'd come to Pittsburgh on a regular trip to visit with the Pittsburgh Technology Council. And after we do that, we'd head over to Duke's in Homestead. And Bill had a number of things that were happening over in Homestead where he grew up, but Duke's was always where we finished things. And one of the really, really special places on earth with Joe Ducar and the gang from Homestead. But Bill also loved hats. And so we showered with different swag, including T-shirts. I've got my Dukes T-shirt on. I've got my Dukes hat, and on the back, we all got after Bill passed. On the back, say Bill. So So this
I had my
is
Duke's
in
tube
honor
socks
and
on as well.
respect and memory. Yeah, there's nobody ever put on earth like Bill Campbell, and we miss him every day, the coach.
I know. Amazing, the gift that he was on this earth to so many people. So let's just dig in to you, Mike.
Yeah.
Can you start out by giving us an overview? Just give an overview of your organization, your company, what you do, and we can have a chance to jump in.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
GSB is an investment platform based. Can you hear me? You guys hear me okay? Thumbs up, yes? No?
Yeah, we're all good.
No?
We're good.
So GSB is an investment platform located in the heart of Silicon Valley. It stands for Global Silicon Valley. So part of our philosophy is the mindset of innovation and entrepreneurship that's made Silicon Valley such a remarkable place is spreading throughout the world. And so we're looking to connect and create a bridge between Silicon Valley and this emerging global Silicon Valley. But we invest in dynamic growth businesses. Historically invest in companies like Facebook and Twitter and Spotify and Dropbox and so forth. We have a special affinity for education technology companies. And so we've got several funds that invest solely in education technology. So companies like Coursera and Coursero and so forth. Unfortunately, we didn't invest in Duolingo, which is a big regret because how wonderful they're doing. We also have different events that we put on from conferences and summits that we host, and innovation, and we have innovation labs through GSV Labs, and so forth. So it's basically an ecosystem around innovation and entrepreneurship, where we're looking to identify, invest, and partner with the most dynamic growth businesses, what I call the stars of tomorrow.
So can you hear me now? Okay, for some reason I had a sign that said I had an unstable connection. So can you give us a sense of how the investment community is responding to the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's varied. I think I would say the majority of the venture capital community is really focused on existing portfolio companies, and with many of them being challenged and really trying to create plans for how they kind of survive whatever the period that this uncertainty is going to prevail. And so I think I would say the majority of venture capital firms are not looking at making investments into new companies. I think they're really looking and focused on the companies that are in their portfolio, making sure that they have the appropriate plans and support to get them out of this period that we're in. I'd say that there are groups, and we are one of them, that looks at the current environment as one that you have to make sure that you take care of your young. So making sure that the companies that we're investors in are doing okay. We're actively making investments, and we're actively raising money for a fund. Some of that has to do with the special focus that we have in education technology, which is a sector that is as horrific as this pandemic has been. For digital learning, it's been a huge boom. Obviously, I mean, it's kind of like some other, like Zoom and some others. You've just seen this huge growth, and effectively, what I say, the future has been accelerated to the present. So we're actually quite active at GSV making investments, but I think the majority of the venture capital community is kind of in a conservative mode. I'd say maybe 20 to 25% are being what I say is aggressive and opportunistic.
Well, you know, it's hard to give all entrepreneurs sort of advice right now. I mean, if you're looking to raise money for your first money, it's probably pretty hard, right? You're saying that if you've had some money in, people are willing to, you know, reinvest in you. But are there any other sectors that you're seeing that are having some opportunities? Because here in Pittsburgh, we actually had a company that's in sort of education and tech and college curating, and they received a $35 million Series C a few weeks ago, which is big for us. And then there's also, we had an exit of a company called Voci Technologies for about $60 million that was acquired by Medallion, I believe, or Medallia. So we've had some really positive things that have happened, but we are seeing that many people who have contracts with customers, that they're down on, they're on a slow, long tail and stretching out their contracts and their relationships. So for the first time, many of these companies that have been well-funded are starting to look at their own reductions. So that, you know, that's sort of the current state in Pittsburgh, but we're still bullish here. Okay, we're still bullish.
Yeah.
And I want to know, is that, I don't think we're being naive, do you?
I don't. I mean, again, I think most sectors are facing a world that is going to be more challenging, you know, for the foreseeable future. And investors hate uncertainty and don't, you know, generally allocate fresh capital into the areas where you have that kind of risk. You know, if I think about Pittsburgh and some of the things that, you know, the leadership in artificial intelligence and, you know, kind of the kind of next generation, that futuristic, you know, industries, you know, driven out of Carnegie Mellon and Pitt, you know, those are the things that tend to still attracting interest and capital and people and all that. I mean, I think Pittsburgh is fortunate to really be, you know, at the center of a lot of this exciting new activity. And so that makes sense that's sort of, I think your optimism is based on kind of reality. As I said, you know, what this coronavirus has done is really I mean, it's not just with people. I mean, you see the people most affected, it's, you know, it's older people and people with pre-existing conditions. Well, you look at the businesses that are most affected, many of them had pre-existing conditions, right? They were older and had issues. And the coronavirus really exposed, you know. So that's kind of, I think, the general view I have.
So there's some GSV presence in Pittsburgh now? Is that correct? GSV Labs?
So GSV Labs, which is innovation, yes. So GSV Labs is creating an innovation center that was really partnering with the innovation entrepreneurship community in Pittsburgh, you know, Carnegie Mellon and Pitt. And it should be, you know, very exciting. The idea with GSV Labs was connecting startups, entrepreneurs with investors, with academic institutions, with government, really to bring startups to life and bring the kind of resources and ecosystem together to see businesses thrive. You know, and you know, obviously it's very challenging and a lot of times being very, very isolated, being a startup. And so this around innovation and entrepreneurship to provide the support and connectivity, and then also to create a global network around innovation and entrepreneurship, because as much as the coronavirus has won created an uncertainty about physical space and also about kind of global aspirations. I do believe that as we come out of this, well, some things will change. People still want to be connected, and I mean the global marketplace. I do think is going to, there's going to be a pause here as people kind of evaluate, who's good, who's bad, what are some of the realities of getting on planes and so forth. But I think the global community of entrepreneurship is still very much alive and will thrive as we come out of this at some point.
So, Jonathan, there's a couple of good questions if you want to just grab them.
Absolutely. We got to start with Emily Mercurio's question because I really love her question. I can't wait to see what you say about this, Mike. So venture capital investment in women-led companies is still a fraction of the total. With the success of women leaders in the international fight against coronavirus, do you think the leadership styles of women are finally being recognized and will inspire more VCs to fund them?
So first of all, I'm very, very bullish on what I call POW, power of women. It's a theme that we have. And so, again, if you want to look at the future, look at what in a knowledge economy, you got the fact that 60% of college students today in the United States are women, graduate students are women. And while there's a frustration, a very fair frustration of number of female venture capitalists, female-backed entrepreneurs, VC-backed companies, this shift is happening. I think, in whether it's the leadership showing the coronavirus fight, which is impressive and admirable, and again, I think just more evidence and more kind of meat on the bones, if you will. It's happening, and I don't think this is my just wishful thinking with two daughters. I think you're seeing the facts of what's going on. It's maybe not happening as fast as people want, or is be great for everybody, but it's happening. And again, this isn't an audio. I heard your no GSV commercial, so I won't give a GSV commercial. But if you look at the companies that we've been backing, almost 50% are female-led, which is, by the way, we're not doing that as a formula. It just so happens that nearly 50% are female-backed, which we're proud of. So, over half the people that work at GSV are female. So it's happening. This Power Women movement, megatrend I think is something that is a great thing, and so I think people should be optimistic.
Very cool.
You have another question.
By the way, I'm gonna go back to Bill Campbell just for a second. And I think probably most of the people on the Zoom do know Bill and Bill's story and the coach of Silicon Valley. One of the things about Bill that people maybe didn't know but should know is he was one of the earliest champions for women in venture capital and business and leadership. I mean, decades ago, Bill was championing women in venture capital and leadership, and he was a real champion for that for as long as I knew Bill, which is 20 years.
Okay. So Jonathan, we have a couple of more questions.
Really great ones. Yeah. If my dogs would stop barking, it would be fantastic. So this is from Dina Blackwell. How can nonprofits help be a part of the future pivot towards digital education, just around awareness and training and innovation centers? She says she has a 3,000 square feet of retail property that she's rethinking right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I think we're at the dawn of digital learning, but I mean, education overall, knowledge economy is a boom. I mean, this coronavirus has basically created a world, and I think it's broadly speaking, and certainly true in education, which I call, you had before Corona, which is BC, And now you're coming in the world of AB, which is after the disease. So you have BC, now you have AB. And I think it really is that dramatic of a shift. You also have a shift going on in businesses and corporate structures. And this whole impact economy is an important part of the future. You know, combining, if you will, the drive that makes a for-profit create the innovation has with the heart that makes a not-for-profit. And this combination, you know, I think creates magic. And so I think the future of not so much corporate structure, you know, or tax structure, but really philosophy of doing, of combining purpose, you know, is going to create really purpose with business objectives and sustainability and success. I think all that is going to be critical in learning as a core example where the not-for-profit, for-profit entities can do remarkable things together. I'll make just one more comment about this online learning because I do think there's a gigantic shift that has taken place over the last 60 days. You've effectively had 1.6 billion students be thrown in the online learning pool over the last 60 days. And some of them are going to sink. Some of them are going to crawl to the edge of the pool and get out and say, I'm never going back in. But you're going to have a bunch that say, you know what, they kind of paddle around. They say, this is pretty interesting. And they're going to stay in the pool and continue swimming. And I do think it's a major, major accelerant for the digital learning space.
Do you think, like, with this kind of transformation of having 1.6 billion who are now in this sort of new digital learning space, do you think that, what do you think about schools? What do you think we're going to see some impact? Because I'm having lots of conversations with parents who are rethinking what it's like, the appreciation for teachers, of course, and, you know, the complexity of them working from home and trying to be helpful and homeschool. But now I'm hearing people question what is school, which is something, an institution that hasn't really changed in 100 years.
Yeah. Well, one, I think there's unquestionably going to be more, I mean, and obviously homeschool creates its own other new challenges, but I do think there will be a growth in homeschools and different providers that help with providing education, not in a traditional school. And you're already seeing that happen. I also, but generally speaking, while you have had this huge shift, I think it's a permanent shift to digital learning. I think there's sort of a correlation between age and physical space. In other words, the younger the student, the more I think that learning environment is going to be in a physical space, and there's a lot of value that you're getting besides just learning math and learning reading that comes from that space. And I think as you see the ages, go to the extreme to adult learning, I think almost all adult learning I think is going to happen digitally. And so I think there is sort of this kind of path, and then so you get to the university aspect and the 18 to 22-year-old student, how much of that happens on a campus, how much of that happens somewhere else. I think unquestionably, even though I think there's a lot of value for the 18 to 22-year-old, learning how to grow up and so forth, I think there'll be some shift, if not a significant shift, from the physical campus as the primary place that people are taking learning and getting their courses and getting their degrees. I don't think it's replaced, but I definitely think it's going to not be what historically, generally speaking, I think it's not going to be what we've had for a long time.
So haven't you recently partnered with and created an entrepreneurship MBA program?
Audrey, I'm so impressed with the homework that you've done. This is good. So last week we announced the Gsb Nba for entrepreneurship, which is an online accredited degree. So it's online, it's not physical. Really the goal is to provide real life, real world skills and knowledge and connectivity to help entrepreneurs that have a dream, provide them with the skills and fundamentals to bring that dream to life. And so I'm quite excited about it. I mean, it wasn't actually something that was on my roadmap of things that GSB was going to do, just because I felt like that might be a bridge too far. But as the opportunity was brought to me and started evaluating what we could do, I got quite excited about it. So I'm quite excited that we're launching this. And so now the goal is that it's got to be really good, because
That's great.
it's fun.
We will share that. We'll put the link out. I think there is a link and there's information that we can share about that program. So my hat's off.
That'd be
to you.
great.
We have a couple of questions. We have a couple of more questions, Jonathan, that are really interesting, that if you could grab
Sure.
them.
Yeah. So for Rick Newton is asking, he says, speaking of all this online learning talk, what are some of the other leading edge and disruptive technologies and business models that you're currently investing in that you think will dramatically change entire industries?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, in Pittsburgh, you're at the center of a couple of them. Artificial intelligence is not underhyped. I think it's the transformational nature of artificial intelligence. By the way, it's going to be in every sector. So artificial intelligence is not, it's what it does in healthcare, what it does in education, what it does in finance, what it does everywhere. It's a game changer, and you guys are in the center of it. So that's pretty exciting. Autonomous technologies are game changing, and once again, I look at this, and you have fits and starts, and some people say it's never going to happen. Some people it's going to happen yesterday. All I know is when you look at the data and you sit there and say that you've got something like 350,000, excuse me, no, it's 1.2 million. It's 1.2 million people a year die in automobile accidents, and the experts say that 90% of that will go away with autonomous driving. I mean, that's going to be a extraordinary area of opportunity. Blockchain, and it's more than the digital currency. The digital currency, I think, is interesting, and I'm actually a believer in Bitcoin and the ecosystem around it. But put that aside, the technology of blockchain is very disruptive, very transformational, and again, I think it's going to impact almost every aspect of the industry. And so those are areas that are important, not as disruptive, but certainly gigantic momentum. And I think it's the combination of technology and health, and really this kind of wellness, the wellness area. And again, healthcare is obvious, and there's many exciting things going on in healthcare and drugs and so forth. But I think wellness, this whole idea of, and I think there's a combination, it's technology, it's fitness, it's health, and it's spirituality. And it might sound, and maybe particularly in a world that's very scary and uncertain, I think people are trying to, it's this combination of how you live a healthier, happier life, and how to use technology and information to do this in a non-random, more systematic way. So those are some ideas.
Another question, Jonathan?
Absolutely.
You have another
here.
question?
So, yeah, from Rhea David, do you think there will be a public or private push to expand internet and technology and technological access to those students who lack? And do you think that this technological movement can impact and change the college ranking system?
Wow, two different things.
Yeah.
First of all, I think one of the things that the coronavirus has shown, again, is as much as there's been great progress in connectivity and access and equality of having technology available, there's still many inequalities that are unfair and not, you know, doesn't work for a society or a world that's trying to give everybody an equal opportunity to participate in the future, with the foundation of that being education. So that still needs to change and get better. And I think, you know, if there is good news, there's been a bright light shine on that. As it relates to college rankings, I do think, you know, I think that's an area for disruption. And again, I think the gaming of the rankings kind of misses the point of, and again, you got some amazing academic institutions in Pittsburgh, and there's amazing academic institutions in the world. And this is not a rip on any academic institution specifically. It's a rip on the system, which is the idea in a world that education is really the equalizer, that you get a higher rated school by excluding, not including. And so if the purpose of knowledge, and the great thing about knowledge is it's not a zero-sum game. If I share knowledge with you, I don't lose that knowledge, you now gain that. And so, I mean, I think the system of the future has to be where you find a way to educate, give quality education to more and more people. And institutions that do that are, quote, rated higher or do better because they have all this amazing stuff to share. So they should share with more people and not be penalized because they include more people. They don't know, as opposed to excluding them.
You know, this is great. I know we're like even beyond our time, and I really unfortunately need to start to wrap it up. And I thank everyone for being this, but I think you're being here. I think you'll be interested, Mike, in the fact that we're starting a STEM summit, and that STEM summit, it's our virtual STEM summit. We're doing it, we used to do it all in one day, and now we're doing it every day, Thursday, and running daily through June 5th. And we'll be connecting students and teachers across the Commonwealth. And even if they're not in the Commonwealth, they can come for an hour and they can get to meet some of our you know, foremost individuals who are leading innovation here. We already have 500 teachers signed up already. And we have Louis Von On, founder of Duolingo, Chuck Hoover, head of Facebook Reality Labs. We have Google X that has a lot of Pittsburghers, even though they're based in Silicon Valley. We have Uber, and then we also have Dr. Phalo, who's actually working on the a solution for the virus. So over at the University of Pitt. So we're opening up our doors to people who are doing incredible things. So we're very excited about that. And I know if Bill was alive, he would be thrilled with this. And I just, first of all, hats off to Bill Campbell and his legacy and all that he's done, because we would not know you and we would not know the work he does. You can see the hat. We would like everyone to go to Duke's. Please go to Duke's and Homestead, support our restaurants, support our small businesses, drink beer there. We love them. Joe Ducar, wherever you are. And Mike, we're going to stay in touch with you. We're going to stay in touch with you. You have been a great friend to all of us, and thank you for taking the time with us on this Friday before Memorial Day.
Well, totally my pleasure, and people in Pittsburgh are super important to me, and keep up the amazing work. I'm really thrilled that this is going on as it is, and anytime, of course, I'd love to be part of anything that I can. So thank you. Have a great Memorial weekend, and hope to be in touch soon. Thank you.
All right.